The story kicks off with a young boy named Steve who dreams of becoming a miner, but every time he tries to enter the local mine, a grumpy old man stops him. Kids are strictly forbidden from going in there. Fast forward several decades. Steve has grown up, but life hasn't turned out the way he hoped. Instead of mining, he's selling door handles, feeling stuck and disheartened. One day while eating alone, Steve suddenly remembers his childhood dream of becoming a miner. With renewed determination, he heads back to that same mine. This time, nothing can stop him, not even the grumpy old man. Steve breaks in and starts digging with fervor, chasing his long-lost dream. During his excavation, he discovers two mysterious artifacts, the Sphere of Dominion and the Earth Crystal. When he combines them, a portal opens to the Overworld, a universe where only those with imagination and building skills can thrive. Steve immediately starts constructing houses. One day, he encounters a pink sheep and uses its wool to build yet another home. On his adventures, he meets a wild wolf that initially tries to attack him, but Steve offers it a juicy bone, taming the creature. He names his new friend Dennis, and from that moment on, they become inseparable. Steve continues to create the world he's always dreamed of. Time flies and years pass. One day, while exploring the far reaches of the Overworld, Steve stumbles upon an abandoned portal. Nearby, he finds a chest containing a missing block. He inserts it into the portal, which activates. Dennis immediately jumps in, and Steve follows. On the other side, Steve finds himself in a completely different world, inhabited by pig-like creatures called piglins. They serve a powerful sorceress named Malgosia, who has spent her life searching for the Sphere of Dominion that Steve possesses. Malgosia finally acquires the sphere and declares herself the Queen of the Nether. She plans to use the sphere to take control of the Overworld. Steve, who considers the Overworld his home, can't allow this. With Dennis's help, he escapes and steals the sphere back. He then instructs the wolf to hide the artifact in his house in the real world. Dennis obeys, runs out of the portal, and Steve remains captive with Malgosia. Dennis reaches the real world and hides the most powerful artifact in the universe under Steve's bed. In doing so, he separates the sphere from the crystal, causing the passage to the real world to close. Years have passed, and we meet Garrett Garrison, a former arcade champion from the late 80s, now living in the small town of Chuglas, Idaho. Back in his glory days, Garrett earned the nickname the Garbage Man for his impressive trash-throwing skills in video games. But those days are long gone. Now he's barely scraping by, running a struggling video game store that's seen better times. One day, Garrett receives an eviction notice due to unpaid rent. Desperate and out of options, he decides to try his luck at a local storage auction, hoping to find something valuable to sell. A friend hints that among the piles of junk, there might be a rare Atari Cosmos console worth a significant amount. Seizing the opportunity, Garrett purchases the contents of an old storage unit for $900, promising to pay his friend back within 6 months. Upon opening the boxes, Garrett is disappointed to find no sign of the coveted console. Frustrated, he fails to notice two powerful artifacts lying at his feet, the Orb of Dominance and the Earth Crystal. Around the same time, siblings Natalie and her younger brother Henry move to Chuglas, trying to cope with the recent loss of their mother. Natalie takes on a modest job to cover their basic needs, while their neighbor Dawn, a real estate agent with dreams of opening a petting zoo, helps them settle into their new home. The next morning, Natalie prepares a pizza for Henry to share with his new classmates, hoping it will help him make friends. She also gives him a small bottle of cologne to ensure he smells nice. Still grieving, Henry thanks his sister and heads off to his first day at a new school. On his way, Henry spots an old game store and decides to check it out. It's Garrett's shop. Seeking advice, Henry approaches Garrett, who demands $50 for his insights. Instead, Henry offers the pizza his sister made. Garrett accepts the trade and shares some life wisdom. Having even one friend can make all the difference. Inspired by Garrett's words, Henry leaves the pizza and continues to school. There, he meets the principal, who gives him a name badge. During their conversation, she unexpectedly opens up about her own life, sharing that she and her husband had grown apart over time but stayed together for the sake of their dogs. Later that day, Henry's first class kicks off with a teacher who's clearly had enough, grumbling about his life and low pay with a heavy dose of sarcasm. He assigns a still life drawing, but Henry, ever the innovator, sketches a prototype for a jetpack instead. His classmates erupt in laughter, mocking his unconventional approach. Determined to prove them wrong, Henry builds a homemade jetpack based on his design, showcasing his impressive ingenuity. However, during testing, the device malfunctions and crashes into the potato chip factory where his sister, Natalie, works. The incident doesn't go unnoticed, and Henry soon finds himself in the principal's office. She insists on contacting his guardian. Panicked, Henry calls Garrett and pleads with him to pose as his uncle to avoid troubling Natalie. Initially reluctant, Garrett changes his mind upon learning Henry has $26 in cash and promptly arrives at the school. Ever the narcissist, Garrett doesn't even step out of his car, expecting the principal to come to him. She attempts to flirt, but Garrett makes it clear he's not interested and drives off. Garrett takes Henry to his shop, where the boy notices the mysterious orb and crystal. Curious, he asks about them. Garrett shrugs, admitting he has no idea what they are, just some items he picked up at an auction. While rummaging through boxes, they discover an instruction manual for the cube. One warning stands out in bold letters: under no circumstances should the orb and crystal cube be combined. And further emphasized, never, even if you're broke. Even if you think there's treasure inside, do not open. Naturally, their curiosity gets the better of them. They combine the cube and the orb, which transports them to an abandoned mine. Unbeknownst to them, Steve's loyal wolf, Dennis, watches from a distance. Meanwhile, Natalie realizes Henry hasn't returned home from school. Worried and unsure of what to do, she calls Dawn. Using a tracking app, Dawn locates Henry's phone at the abandoned mine. Without hesitation, they set off to find him. Inside the mine, Henry and Garrett discover a portal to the overworld. At that moment, Natalie and Dawn catch up to them. The mysterious cube begins to glow, emitting a strange energy that pulls Henry toward the portal. Instinctively, the others grab him, trying to hold him back, but within seconds, all four are sucked into the portal. They find themselves in the overworld, stunned by their new surroundings. Garrett spots a pink sheep and decides to chat with it, asking where to find gold. Meanwhile, a villager notices the open portal and steps into our world. Back in the desolate Nether, piglins continue their relentless search for gold. Suddenly, a portal activates. Malgosia realizes the sphere has returned to the overworld. She rushes to Steve, who has been her captive all this time. Malgosia frees him, promising to return Dennis, whom she claims to be holding, if Steve helps retrieve the lost artifact. Steve agrees, driven by his bond with Dennis. In the overworld, the group of newcomers tries to find their way home, but night falls quickly. A wolf howls loudly, prompting the pink sheep to hide. The area falls into an eerie silence, but not for long. Sinister sounds emerge from the shadows. Skeleton hunters, giant spiders, and zombies crawl out of the darkness. Our heroes panic and run. In the chaos, Garrett gets separated from the group. Henry, thinking on his feet, grabs nearby cubes and rapidly constructs defensive barricades. Meanwhile, Garrett hides underground, evading the skeleton hunters. After a few minutes, he emerges from his hiding spot, only to be startled by a creeper that explodes right next to him, leaving him in shock. He then sees the pink sheep being captured by zombies, but is powerless to help. One of the skeleton hunters shoots an arrow that shatters the earth crystal into pieces. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Steve arrives to save the day. He bravely confronts the monsters, single-handedly defeating them and leaving everyone in awe. As dawn breaks, the sun rises, and the zombies burst into flames. Later, Steve reveals he came for the sphere. He offers a deal. He'll help them return to Earth if they give him the artifact. Since the skeleton hunter destroyed the Earth crystal, the heroes realize they can't get back without Steve's help and agree to his terms. Meanwhile, back in the real world, the villager who stumbled through the portal found himself in a rather unexpected predicament. He was accidentally struck by a car, driven by none other than Vice Principal Marlene, who had been momentarily distracted behind the wheel. In a flustered attempt to smooth things over, she hastily invited him to dinner, hoping to make amends. Returning to the overworld, Steve took it upon himself to introduce the newcomers to the intricacies of Minecraft life. He led them to a peaceful village inhabited by friendly and inquisitive locals. There he explained that their only way back home was to find a new Earth crystal to replace the one that had been shattered. According to legend, such a crystal could be found in the mysterious woodland mansion located somewhere to the north. During their exploration, the group encountered a pig wearing a crown, a heartfelt nod to the late American Minecraft YouTuber known as Technoblade, who was famous for his Pig King avatar. They also met a towering iron golem, the village's formidable guardian. As lunchtime approached, Steve warned everyone that the chicken had been cooked over lava and was still radiating intense heat. Garrett, ever the showman, took a massive bite despite the warning, valiantly concealing his discomfort to maintain his bravado. Meanwhile, in the Nether, Malgosia grew increasingly frustrated, suspecting that Steve had deceived her. Determined to retrieve the sphere, she summoned her most powerful general, Chungus, a mighty yet kind-hearted piglin. She explained that 4 outsiders had taken possession of the sphere and it needed to be recovered. Before dispatching him, Malgosia provided Chungus with a special netherwort potion to protect him from transforming into zombified bacon in the overworld. She commanded him to retrieve the sphere at any cost. Back in the overworld, Steve encouraged the group to embrace the limitless possibilities of their new environment. He showcased his inventory brimming with tools, gadgets, axe, and various intriguing items, demonstrating how to craft objects by combining different materials. Inspired, Garrett managed to cobble together a makeshift weapon, crude but functional. Henry, drawing from his real-world experience, ingeniously fused everyday items with overworld resources to create something truly extraordinary. Later, Garrett pulls Steve aside for a private conversation. He confesses that he found a note inside the sphere and directly asks about the gold. Steve doesn't hesitate and reveals the location of his diamond stash deep within the mines. However, he warns Garrett that the journey there is extremely risky. Garrett, undeterred, looks Steve in the eye and says, "No diamonds, no sphere." Before they can embark on their quest, the village is suddenly attacked. Under Malgosha's orders, a squad of fierce piglins, led by General Chungus, storms the settlement in search of the sphere. Steve prepares to confront Chungus, but Garrett, eager for glory and unwilling to let Steve take all the credit, charges at Chungus with his makeshift weapon. In the chaos, he accidentally knocks out Steve. Panic ensues as villagers scatter in all directions. Steve regains consciousness and flees with Garrett and Henry, while Natalie and Dawn are left behind, causing the group to split up. Steve, Henry, and Garrett find themselves trapped atop a building. Steve pulls out his elytra, but there are only two pairs. Henry jumps first and soars into the sky, followed by Garrett. Steve leaps after him and grabs onto Garrett, and together they glide away. The piglins don't give up easily and pursue them on a ghast. An aerial chase ensues. At one point, they manage to shake off the ghast and soar over a tranquil field where pandas reside. Steve pours a bucket of water onto the ground, and the trio lands perfectly in a lake without a scratch. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the school vice principal enjoys dinner with the very villager she accidentally hit with her car earlier. Over dinner, she confesses that she recently went through a divorce. The villager listens attentively. In the overworld, Steve decides to open up to the group. He tells them about Malgosha and mentions that in her youth, she dreamed of becoming a dancer. Although she was very talented, her dancing was not appreciated in the Nether. Even her father turned his back on her, believing she had brought shame upon him. Since then, Malgosha has abandoned creativity and kindness. Steve explains that if Malgosha obtains the sphere, she will destroy the overworld along with all its inhabitants. He also admits he's in a difficult position. On one hand, he needs to save his beloved wolf, Dennis. On the other, he doesn't want to let the overworld fall. His scene shifts to the Nether. Chungus has failed his mission, and Malgosha's patience has run out. She unleashes her ultimate weapon, the Great Boar, a massive beast, and orders it to eliminate Chungus, which it promptly does. Then, Malgosha gives the order, retrieve the sphere at any cost. In the midst of their journey, Natalie and Dawn unexpectedly encounter a wolf. Without hesitation, Dawn offers it a bone, hoping to gain its trust. Noticing the collar with Steve's name on it, the wolf decides to lead them to its owner. Following closely behind, Natalie and Dawn are guided to Steve's location. Meanwhile, Steve and his companions venture deep into the mines where he has concealed his long-hoarded diamonds. However, Steve's keen miner's instincts detect an unusual scent, the unmistakable aroma of nether wart. Realizing the danger, Steve, Henry, and Garrett quickly board a minecart, racing at full speed through the tunnels. Just as they approach a critical point, the redstone powering the tracks runs out, causing the minecart to halt right in the midst of a group of creepers. At that moment, the Great Boar appears. Determined to act, Steve triggers all the creepers simultaneously. A massive explosion shakes the mine, burying the Great Boar under rubble and allowing the trio to escape to the surface. Garrett, exhausted and frustrated, confronts Steve, accusing him of greed. In response, Garrett admits that diamonds are his only chance to escape poverty. After a brief exchange, they reconcile. The three friends finally reach the ominous Forest Mansion. According to Steve, the mansion has 3 floors. The first is guarded by battle-hardened villagers, tough and disciplined. The second is controlled by evokers, dark wizards capable of bringing nightmares to life. And on the 3rd floor resides the Enderman Crystal, protected by the Enderman itself, a creature capable of destroying anyone with a single glance. Steve and Garrett decide to distract the Guardians, while Henry is tasked with building a ladder to steal the Enderman Crystal. The Guardians push Garrett into an arena where he must face their best warrior. Initially confident, Garrett soon realizes his opponent is a mini-zombie riding a frenzied chicken. These tiny fighters battle like true professionals. While the Guardians are distracted by the fight, Henry stealthily ascends to the 3rd floor and finds the coveted Enderman Crystal. However, the Enderman appears, a tall, dark figure. Armed with a diamond axe, Henry engages in battle and defeats the Enderman. As a trophy, he obtains the Enderman Pearl, a rare artifact capable of instantly transporting its holder anywhere in the overworld. The trio flees the mansion, but encounters Malgosha. Smirking, she seizes the orb of dominance and the Enderman crystal from them, leaving them empty-handed. Garrett saves us Steve and Henry's lives, giving them a chance to escape unaghast. Displaying selflessness, he remains on the bridge and sacrifices himself during its destruction. Later, Steve is reunited with his loyal wolf, Dennis. In the distance, Henry is spotted. He survived too. It turns out that Dawn has built a cozy home inside a giant mushroom. The reunited team takes a moment to rest, but their joy is short-lived as a new disaster unfolds. Malegosia uses the sphere's power to strengthen the portal from the Netherworld to the Overworld. At her command, the sun vanishes, plunging the Overworld into eternal night. The friends decide to confront Malegosia and save the Overworld. They devise a plan, craft numerous swords, forge sturdy armor, and even build an entire army of iron golems. At dawn, a horde of piglins floods into the Overworld through the enhanced portal. Upon seeing the golem army, Malegosia laughs, knowing that golems don't fight unless provoked. But one reckless piglin strikes first, and that's enough. The golems spring into action, and the decisive battle begins. During the fight, Malegosia orders another great boar to join the fray. However, the heroes have built their own Ultra Golem. The two monsters clash in a thunderous duel that shakes the entire Overworld. Meanwhile, Steve, clad in diamond armor and wielding a diamond sword, faces off against Malegosia, but she stands firm. Her dark magic proves stronger than any sword. At this moment, the Great Boar defeats the Ultra Golem. In the heat of battle, Henry takes a desperate step. He uses the crafted item and the Ender Pearl to instantly teleport to the top of the portal to seize the sphere. Just then, the Great Boar charges at Natalie. With no chance of escape, she faces certain doom. Suddenly, a voice rings out. It's Dawn. She stands atop a hill, surrounded by a pack of wild wolves she somehow tamed and united. One sharp whistle, and the wolves leap into action. Amid the chaos, the Great Boar, consumed by rage, fires a beam directly at Henry, knocking him from his perch before he can grab the artifact. It seems Henry is doomed, but at the last moment, Garrett, miraculously alive, saves him. It turns out he used a bucket of water when landing after the bridge's collapse. With the help of a ghast, Garrett destroys the portal to the Netherworld. The sun returns, zombies and skeletons vanish under its light, and the piglins, including Malegosia, lose their magical protection and begin to turn into zombie bacon. Malegosia attempts to deceive Steve, charging at him with a knife 3 times, but fails each time. Steve knows the battle is over. Instead of finishing off the enemy, he walks away, leaving Malegosia alive, to live with the shame of her defeat. After their victory, Steve expresses his gratitude to Dawn for looking after Dennis and entrusts her with his beloved pet. He then embraces Garrett, acknowledging him as a true friend and a brave warrior. Steve invites Henry to remain in the Overworld, but Henry smiles and declines, preferring to return home. Soon after, the team uses the Orb of Dominance and the Ender Crystal to open a portal back to their world. Steve watches as each of them steps through the portal, and a moment later he follows suit. Days pass, and life begins to change. Garrett creates a fighting game based on their adventures in the Overworld, achieving financial success and settling his debts. Dawn leaves her real estate job to open a petting zoo, with Dennis becoming the main attraction. Henry completes his jetpack, and Natalie starts teaching self-defense classes. Steve joins Garrett in managing his game store, becoming a full business partner. In a post-credits scene, a romance blossoms between a villager and the school principal. The villager now speaks fluent English, and she has learned a bit of villager speak.